the Pentagon hosting a meeting between US Defense Secretary Peter Hegseth and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who said, "First comes strength, then peace." Netanyahu was referring to the American airstrikes on Iran of June the 22nd, when the Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan nuclear sites were hit. The meeting underscores in many ways the hand-in-hand approach the US has towards Israel. The US provides at least $3.3 billion in aid each year, and in March an additional $12 billion in sales was announced by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, reversing Biden-era reductions in arms supply that was imposed in a bid to try to stop the killing of Palestinians in Gaza. Let's get more analysis and bring in our correspondent live in Jerusalem, Noga Tarnopolsky. Noga, good evening to you. Hegseth and Netanyahu at the Pentagon signalled, as if one were needed, that Trump's administration will continue very much to support Netanyahu.
I think that we're getting mixed signaling from the US administration and even from Hegseth, perhaps less from Netanyahu, who is very much pushing his agenda, which is an agenda that does not want to declare an end to this war, at least not in the foreseeable future. But from the White House and even from Hegseth in his own way, what we're hearing is, you've used strength, we displayed strength, now it's time for peace. The Trump administration is apparently pushing Netanyahu very, very hard to come to some agreement, including refusing to give him what he really went to Washington for, which is a victory lap, a major statement in front of the media on the White House lawn. He expected to receive that kind of glory from President Trump, who he succeeded in enticing to join Israel in the Iran operation, and he's not getting it. So I think it's a somewhat more complex image. Another thing complicating matters is that while the White House, both Trump, Hegseth, and even Gideon Sa'ar, surprisingly, are speaking optimistically about a possible winding down of this war, Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, decided to postpone his planned trip to Qatar today to join these negotiations in what's being seen here in Israel as a sign that things are not quite yet ripe.
On the ground, Noga, more Palestinians killed. As in diplomatic circles, there are words hinting at a truce. In many ways, if you look at that just on paper, it seems incredibly cruel.
The entire situation here is incredibly cruel. I would say not just diplomatic circles. What's happening with the distribution of aid in Gaza is incredibly cruel. The lack of verifiable information, which has been imposed by the Israeli army throughout this conflict, is at this point unjustifiable and cruel. We are part of a petition to the Israeli Supreme Court to allow us to cover Gaza from within. We at France 24. We have not yet been granted that. I would like to point out that there are also few but important signs of light. I was very impressed in recent days to see that a pro-peace group in Gaza, it's not a new group, it's a very old group called the Gaza Youth Committee, noticed that in Israel in recent weeks, activists, anti-war activists have started putting up the images of Gazan babies killed during this war on bus stops all over Israel. And they took inspiration from that and have started themselves in person at significant risk, walking around Gaza, filming themselves, holding up images of Israeli babies killed during this conflict. And I want to highlight these individuals because there are these signs of civil society awakening, despite what appears to be the somnolence and the cruelty, as you pointed out, of the world we want to think of as those in power, those adults in the room who have not yet succeeded in making the necessary changes so as to end this war.
Let's hope that that movement, as you just pointed out, Noga, does bring about the change, and it is a sea change that is needed to get us where we need to be towards peace. Noga Tarnopolsky, as always, thank you for bringing the enlightenment that you do to our story, which is very complicated and very dark to decipher, but you're always there for us. Thank you very much indeed. Noga Tarnopolsky, live from Jerusalem.
Mark.
Thank you.